Welcome back to the Ball Does Lie podcast, your one-stop shop for daily NBA content. My name is Amir, joined by my co-host Brendan. Brandon, the Golden State Warriors, they are still struggling, but they've won a few games of late. They are 15-15, and they've honestly looked better after Draymond Green was ejected in the game versus the Suns, and recently against the Magic, where him and Steve Kerr got in an argument, and he just left the bench and went to the locker room in the third quarter. So, what are your thoughts on Draymond Green? I know he is very important for this team, obviously, as a hub, as a playmaker, as a defender, as a crazy freaking person that just
Yeah.
mucks up the game. But they've looked better in the last few games without him, theoretically. So, what are your whole thoughts on Draymond?
Yeah. They truly have, and I want to make sure Draymond gets his flowers. This guy's a Hall of Fame, like first ballot lock Hall of Famer. He'll have a statue in front of Chase Center, no question. And a big reason for why the Warriors have, a top 10 defensive rating, top 5 defensive rating over, the last month or so of the season. But in these last, I would say, 2 games that they've won, the game has completely flipped the minute Draymond left the game. Now, it was early against the Suns in the first half, and they were able to lean on Jimmy a lot in that game. But last night against the Magic, we're recording this on Tuesday here. Draymond leaves the game in the third quarter. I think the Warriors are down 1 at the time. And the minute he leaves the game, just goes back to the locker room, the Warriors start to figure things out offensively. Um, and they end up winning the game 120-98. And I think a lot of that, the offensive movement just opened up, which is odd because I think Draymond is by no sense a ball stopper. But the energy, the rhythm, and I think as like non-analytical as it sounds, the vibes were just way better the minute he left the floor. And interestingly enough, against the Magic, the only player with a negative plus minus. Everybody else was in the positives. Draymond left the game at a -5. So a really interesting time right now for the Dubs. Steve Kerr's got a lot to think about. He mentioned in his post-game presser that Draymond wasn't going to enter the game, even if he hadn't left to the locker room. He was going to continue running with the guys he was going with. And that would have been basically the entire second half against the Magic, which you would think Draymond would be a pretty great matchup there to take care of guys like Paolo and some of the size that the Magic have. But, during this run, no surprise, Steph's just playing like a complete MVP still playing like a top 10 player, averaging
Top five, baby.
27, top 5.
Yeah.
He's averaging 27 and 6 over these last 2 wins. And a guy who's been getting a lot of flack by myself included, I got to hand it to him. Brandon Pajemski's playing really well over the last couple weeks or so. So I want to make sure he actually gets some acknowledgement there because he's been in every single Warrior trade rumor. I know the entire Bay Area wants to ship him out, but he's looked really good in these last 2 games here. And the big question mark remains to be Kuminga, only player that didn't play last night. I'm not sure if he was hurt or unavailable because I know he was hurt against the Suns, but by all accounts on the box score, it was a DNP coach's decision and the only player that didn't enter the game last night. So that situation continues to be crazy. But I don't know. I guess to throw it back to you and to get us back to Draymond, do you really think the Warriors are a better team with Draymond off the floor, or do you think this is just a weird little stretch here and the Warriors are going to need Draymond if they expect to make any type of run this postseason?
I think the question's more of like off the bench versus off the floor. Like, out of the rotation, yeah, sure. Like they're way better without him off the floor. Like, no, come on. That's just a small sample size. Without Draymond, they look good. The offense did flow. It's not like he's a ball stopper, to your point, but less chaos, less
Yeah, less
technicals,
chaos.
less
There it is.
emotional swings. He's old. He's freaking old. Like you fall apart when you're older. Like he hasn't fallen apart completely, but like he's not the same Draymond, the Hall of Famer that you talked about, who helped them win 4 championships, where he was always a top 3 defender in the NBA. Like he's still one of the better defenders in the NBA, but he's slowing down. His like reaction time and reflexes are a little bit slower. That happens with father time, but defensively he's still a good player. He's still a communicator. He's still an organizer. He's still someone that can cover the mistakes of his teammates. Like, he is someone that, that can get into the heads of the opponents. And when he does have those emotional swings, sometimes it does F with the other team, right? And that's if they're weak minded, but they're not better without him on the floor. Maybe they just need to find, I guess, better matchups or just better players for him to pair up with, perhaps. I mean, obviously, he's got to play with Steph. Like that
Yeah.
connection is still there, but
I think he could definitely use a better center and move him out of that 5 position and let him play the 4. Because I think the small ball era, unfortunately for the Warriors, is coming to an end. All the top teams in the league now have pretty insane size. Like, you could just go down the real contenders.
in
All
the
of them are
West,
big. In the West specifically, absolutely. Like, Rockets, enormous. Spurs, of course.
Nuggets
Just
with
size
Joe
at every position.
Gordon.
Joker, everyone in Denver. The Lakers even. Just a lot of size everywhere. So I think if you could move Draymond back to the 4, where he becomes a complete Swiss Army knife defensively, I think you get more of his impact there, and then you're not relying on him to be such an offensive threat here. You can actually let some of these guys breathe a little bit more. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Warriors do here over the next week or so, given just his overall plus minus in these last couple of games and how the team's looked when he's exited the floor. So something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and what's crazy is, like, even though they're 15-15, they're 8th, they are only like 4 games back from the 6th seed, which is kind of wild, right? Like, the Suns are a game or so ahead of them. So they have a chance to maybe be a top 6 team. I don't know. The Rockets are 6th now at 17-9, which is kind of crazy to me, man. Like, and the Spurs are number 2 now. Like, there's been a lot of movement, and there still could be movement for those higher seeds. So, do you think they have a shot to be top 6, or do you think they're destined for like 7 and 8? What do you think before we close?
I think they're going to end up around the 7 and 8 spot. But if you have Steph Curry, your ceiling is pretty high, so anything can happen. But just given the way this year's gone, I expect them to be more around that kind of 7-8 spot where they're at now. Like, they'll be competing with the Grizzlies and Suns for positioning there. Maybe a little bit of the Rockets if they continue to slip, but I don't see that happening for much longer in Houston.
I agree. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for hopping on, Brendan. Appreciate the time. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel for more NBA content. Thank you again.